Okay.
No problem.
Hi everyone. Hi Driven Man. This is the Self-Development for Modern Man group. Matt is here with us just at the last moment. Hi Matt. Nice that you joined us. We are just about to start. Love the glasses. All right, I'm gonna continue. So, hi everyone. It's great to have you here. In today's webinar, we're gonna talk about how to deal with the inner demons. How to deal with the inner demons like thoughts, feelings, those kind of emotions, inflicting emotions and disturbing thoughts, negative thoughts, what bring us down, make life hard, and sometimes just we cannot seem to proceed in life. We're going to talk about deep understanding of how the human psyche works, how demons work, and how to deal with them. We are together with Matt, John, and we have Mikhail with us. So just I'm so grateful for have this. I always enjoying the live webinars so much. And if you joined or you're watching this later, feel free to ask. Be part of the discussion. We are here to give value, to have a discussion, to answer. To help you have a greater human experience, to find freedom and potential in life. So this is today's webinar, and I would like just to give the thread probably to John now.
Hi, and great to be here, guys. So on the subject of inner demons, I had something I was thinking about earlier as a discussion point for the webinar, and one of the biggest inner demons for me, I guess you could say, was oh right, am I a bit better now? Yeah, one of the inner demons for me was sorry, is being afraid of my own greatness and where I will, where I will I'll go with that. And I realized that being afraid of our own greatness, it's just kind of like a boogeyman on the wall. It's kind of like if you build a scarecrow or a snowman, you're building up a story, a sort of a narrative about yourself, and then you let this thing that you shape bother you. And to me, that's basically if I was to kind of like sum it up all together, that's how I see an inner demon. I don't think it really has to be too complicated. However, the problem is when we get stuck and we get hooked in by a certain emotion. I think the biggest creator of inner demons is when you take something really personally about yourself. Somebody says something like they call you ugly, they call you a name, I don't know, and you get all self-conscious about it, and you just carry that forward. So I think the biggest cause of inner demons is when we get stuck on something personal.
John, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How do you see that holding you back then? This inner demon that you mentioned before, of being afraid of your own greatness, did you say?
Yeah.
Can you talk on that for me? Because I'm a bit unclear of how that would manifest itself.
I guess it's the thought of the pressure. For me, that was the thought of the pressure that would be put upon me, and it's kind of like my thinking on, that I would have had the inability to deal with such pressure, and everything would just sort of cave in. It's kind of like, before, it used to be all, yeah, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know how to stay calm under pressure, and it was just kind of, it used to get upsetting, and I used to get angry about it. And
well, I think for me as well, that speaks to me, because what I heard there, and stop me if I'm wrong, but there's a tendency as well when you start to accept what's going on for you, and that there's certain things that you want to do and certain things that you're driven to do in life, and it's called that greatness. There's a tendency, there's a point there where you go, right, well, I have to step into this role. This is what I have to sort of bite the bullet and sink or swim. And I think that can be scary, because you're stepping up now, you're changing your game, you're stepping up your game. And I think for me, I know one of the biggest demons I've always dealing with is perfectionism, which I don't think is too far away from what you were saying, really.
Yeah.
This idea that I have to be perfect, I have to know it all before it happens. And I think that's the problem, isn't it? We have this idea of what we want to do, and we think about it so much. We live in that future state of, right, this is me, I've achieved, say I've got a $1 million business. Okay, I've got a $1 million business. I'm looking at this vision of myself in my mind, this thought I've created of myself, which is Matt with his $1 million business.
Yeah, and you said to me during the week, would I speak a bit more today? And I was like, oh God. And you saw how slow I started and how uncomfortable I kind of got there, because it's like, okay, John, I want you to kind of lead into this topic.
Well, yeah, that's a great case in point, though, isn't it? About how, if we're talking about how to deal with inner demons, don't feel like you need to know how to deal with them. Just start doing the thing that you're scared of, and tweak it as you go, and you do find your feet. You grow as you move forward. You don't need to be ready to face your demons from day one. You just need to start the journey towards that, I think.
I also this may be irrelevant, but I sort of learned that if which I should have done earlier, if I raise my heart rate enough beforehand, if a positive thing is raising my heart rate enough before I do the thing I'm nervous about, it overcomes the negative thing, and it completely kind of unhooks the thought that was kind of controlling me going into something. Did you ever hear about that? Like, before you do something you're really nervous about, go somewhere private and just start doing aerobics or dancing, and maybe even start singing for like 5 or 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden it's kind of like,
well, yeah, but that to me sounds like you're actively getting out of your head, getting out of your thinking.
Well, yeah, I see it as sort of getting out of the wrong kind of thinking, really.
Yeah, because confidence is always there. You've always got the confidence to do something, because confidence is, when we talk about confidence, we only ever talk about the lack of confidence. We only ever notice our lack of confidence. We never notice when we're confident, because when we're confident, we're just doing the thing. So I think anything you can do to move away from those negative thoughts that are keeping you feeling unconfident, the better. And like you say, whether that's physical or meditative or anything like that, it's all getting into the same situation, which is you're dropping out of your thinking and you're just getting into action.
There was something I thought was really interesting, if Victor would mind elaborating on this, because Victor brought this up, and that was, Victor said one day about inviting your demons for tea, and I guess, Victor, if you could explain what you meant. You're talking about bringing them to the forefront of the mind and greeting them and dealing with them. What do you mean by this?
Yeah, so the thing is that how the human experience works is that we have a thought, what creates a feeling, and that feeling acts like, especially if we buy into the whole process, or only when we buy into the whole process, it works like we react to that. So if we're not aware, we react to it. Now, the inner demons are basically part of us which we reject. I will talk a bit more about that later on. So, but since we're not aware, or since we try to running away from it, we are reactive. So we try to run away from it, and it controls us. So till we run away, it controls us. Now, I was also posting about the Power Rangers. That's the analogy I like to say. It's like the monsters in the Power Rangers. The more they shoot it, the bigger it grows. There is a similar ancient Chinese analogy or Zen analogy of this, but I'm just using the modern Power Rangers. And this is how our inner demon works. It's like, I'm feeling abandoned, right? In certain situations, I'm feeling abandoned. And we can recognize it as a thought, right? But sometimes we're missing that. And sometimes we just caught up. Now there is already like an emotional effect in the body, and the body stores the emotions like a battery, or like it stores as a memory. Now, what I sometimes do with myself as well, and as well as with my clients, is that when I'm really into a bad state, I just couldn't snap out of it. I know, okay, it is my thoughts, but anyway, I'm just feeling so bad. I'm like miserable, right? I'm going into the emotions first, and just really connecting with that, really being present with the emotion without the story, without being caught up, or really just without being caught up in the story. I'm just feeling the emotion, and I'm inviting that part of myself back. So for example, like in past traumas, if I want acceptance from everyone, maybe I wanted to prove my father, because at some point my father lived our family, and I made it all about me, and I thought that I'm not good enough because my father lived our family. So I gave an interpretation, I made a story out of it. And every time I have a similar situation and someone rejects me, I find that kind of abandoned feeling. Now there is like a potential in it. There is like, there is some part of us in it, what we rejected since that trauma. It's like we literally broke into parts. And by being present with that feeling, we can find great wisdom in it. We can go into it, find great wisdom in it, and we can just be compassionate with that part. So it's really interesting, because I had an interview. It's about or it's in working with a guy, a conscious coach who works with this kind of understanding, like with the understanding the truth and how we work. And he does a lot of this kind of emotional healing, self-compassion, letting go. And I was asking him, how does these two come together? Like, if we know that it's our thinking and we let it go, shouldn't it all go away, right? The emotion and everything. And he said, it's like, this is like opening the gates, opening the petals of the lotus. That as we practice self-compassion and being with our demon and accept it as part of ourselves, we open up to the higher truth, which is reality. So does it make sense, guys? Do you have any questions?
Makes sense to me. I mean, like any of these topics, I think, we all sit in the same. We're all sitting in the same room. I think we maybe in different areas of the room, but we're all in the same room. For me, I hear what you're saying. I think it gets a little complicated for me, that because what I see is that it's all just made up anyway. The thing we're thinking about that's causing us, we know that our thoughts about the thing is just our thinking. But
Hmm.
what I saw is that the thing is our thinking as well. It's not just that we have thoughts about the thing. That thing is self-created. Our perception of that thing is self-created too. So there isn't anything to do about that when I see that. When I see that, because we all know that say I look at my bank balance and it's not as, and I have a bad feeling about that. I know the bank balance isn't coming in and giving me a bad feeling. It's my thinking about the bank balance that is giving me the bad feeling. But what I see now is that my whole concept of money is my own thinking as well. My own concept of what money means, what my bank balance means, what anything means is all my own thinking. So for me, when I see that, and obviously, you know, there's most often days when the bank balance does really give me, you know, does look like it's making me feel a certain way. But when I see through all that illusion of life, that it's all just self-created, you know, not on purpose, not by choice, but it's still part of this experience I'm having. It means I don't feel like I have to do it. It makes less sense to try and do anything about it, to try and analyze it, to try and sit with any mood I'm having, because I know that mood is just transitory. It doesn't exist anywhere apart from inside of me. So there's nothing to fight because there's nothing real there. It's just clouds. It's just vapor. I suppose. So when I'm in a bad mood, and I like what you said, you know, you just sit with the mood, and that's it. When you realize that mood isn't being caused by anything other than just energy inside of you, you just sit with it, and it doesn't mean that it goes away quicker. It just means that you're not having any opinions about it. You're not making it about who you are. You're just in a bad, like say if you stub your toe and your toe hurts all day. It's the same thing as far as I can see it. It's just you've stubbed your psychology for a bit,
Yeah.
and you have to wait for it to go away. But what keeps it around longer is trying to work out, trying to cope with stuff. And I think, you know, we're definitely on the same page there. By letting go of trying to control the uncontrollable, you know, paradoxically, you increase the probability of getting more of what you want. You sit in reality. You sit connected to who you are again, rather than getting stuck in your opinions about what's going on. Because when our thoughts look real, we live in a world of pain and disconnection. But when they look when we sleep through that illusion, we start to live more in a world of choice, you know? So I think the thing for me is, I guess it's just seeing through that illusion that there is nothing, that even though it looks like there's something to do, that we have to overanalyze everything that's going through our consciousness. When we fight against trying to work it out, we actually return back to who we really are a lot quicker. So how to deal with inner demons? Stop trying to deal with them. Let them just come and see them for what they are.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of so. So what you're saying is that when I'm feeling shit, I see that's just my thinking created the feeling, and I don't do anything with it.
Mm.
I'm just let myself feel shit.
Because we all know there's no way you can turn that off, because you've got that energy inside of you. It lasts. It needs to drift away. It needs to dissipate.
An important aspect of this, though, Matt, maybe you're going to come to it, and that is if we're thinking too fast and we try to face this stuff, it only creates more trouble. So we really, really have to like slow down as much as we can, because it's kind of like if you're moving too fast, everything becomes a blur. And we really have to, sort of get to a point where we're slow enough that we can accurately see this. And that's the trap that some people fall into when they try to face these things.
Well, listen, any of these things that I say about, coming from that three principles perspective, it's not a prescription. It's not a how-to of how to live a better life. It's a description of how the human experience works. And there are outside-in things that you can do to help that work. I think there's too much of a tendency in the 3Ps community to say that this is the only way you can do it, and any outside-in techniques should just be poo-pooed and never connected with. But we're here. This is a group for self-development. This is a group for growth, for becoming better than and happier. So I think, like you say, there are ways that you can slow down, because here I think we're in agreement that we can't choose what thought pops into our head at any moment. So if I'm in lots of bad feeling, if I'm in a bad mood, chances are I'm going to be really believing that my circumstances are causing that mood.
It goes to show we can't really trust our thoughts or our feelings.
In that moment, everything looks really fucking scary and nasty and horrible, and everything. And I start looking outside and trying to find out reasons why I'm feeling the way I am. But then if I catch myself and I remind myself, that my feelings are only ever coming from me, from my internal thought process, from my opinions on that thinking, it helps me drop out of that quicker. And I sort of say, okay, yeah, I'm in a bad mood, and I know that if I don't mess with it, it'll go quicker. One of my favourite stories about Sid Banks, who was the guy who sort of first came up with describing the three principles as the three principles. Because let's face it, the three principles has been around forever. It's just another way of describing, many traits of Buddhism and even some of Jesus's teachings fit in with it. It's all about the human experience being completely created inside of us. But Sid Banks was doing some seminar once, and people are coming from miles around to hear him speak, to try and learn from him, to try and see what all this was about. These people who were coming away from his retreats feeling so empowered and their whole life had changed, and people wanted to know, well, who was this guy who could do this? And one of the questions that came to him was, Sid, what do you do when you get angry? Or what do I do when I get angry? How do I deal with anger? And Sid Banks just looked at the guy and said, I don't know what you mean. And he said, well, how do I stop being angry? And he said, I'm sorry, I don't really understand what you're trying to ask me. And one of his sidekicks said, I think what he's saying is, what do you do when you get angry? And Sid Banks just looked at him and said, oh, well, I get angry. Because that's part of the human experience. We are humans, and to fight against that is what causes pain. So if we just stop trying to cope and just see that it's all just energy flowing through us, because we know that nothing lasts forever. When we're in the middle of a real dark mood, it looks like that's it now. This is me, done. This is my personality now. But you might remember something from a few days ago that make you laugh. You might stub your toe and be in pain and just be focusing on that. Whatever, you drop out of your thinking on a moment by moment, basis. So to think that anything's going to be part of who we are, of who we really are, is really looking in the wrong direction. And I think for me, that's all I have to remember, is that who I am exists before all that ideas about myself and what demons I have or don't have. And they don't feel nice, but they, to try and cope with them is what makes us I think, more disconnected. Sorry, Johnny.
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I didn't want to. I should have put my hand up. So we have inner demons and stuff, but I guess this comes back in a sense to our sense of self. So it's kind of like, are we going to allow there to be a strong self to be there to actually get offended? Are we going to allow there to be a strong self to be there to actually attach, this negative in thinking, perceived insults, etc., to ourselves and our narrative?
So what's the question? Sorry.
Oh, right. I was going to say, I think that what ties into this really interestingly is sense of self, because it's kind of like if we take ourselves too seriously and perhaps we've too much of an ego, or we've too many thoughts about ourselves, that's when inner demons become more of an issue than otherwise, if that makes any sense.
I think you're right. I think a lightness of being is always going to create a better experience for you. One of my favorite quotes ever in the personal development world is from Stuart Wilde, who said, seriousness is a disease of the ego. I love that. It doesn't do us any good. It doesn't do any good to be serious. Done.
This is like a big silence.
Yeah, it was poignant.
Yeah, very.
And Matt, what do you do when someone don't get it?
Well, this is the thing, you see. Although I love the three principles philosophy, and it's not coaching, and I think I come from that place, but I'm not a three principles teacher. I don't see myself as that. I am a coach, so I don't think there's anything to get. It's just when I come from that place, that grounding with clients, I know where they're looking in the wrong direction. I don't even have to mention any of these things that I've just said. I just know that that's what's going on for them, and then whatever comes up in the moment to help them point in the right direction, that's what I'll aim for. So that could be, like John said, just slowing them down a lot so they can start to get out of their head and back into life and see things with more perspective. I think for me, what I see is that when we really closed up around something, we become almost obsessed with that idea, with that demon, and it becomes almost our entire world. It's like all we focus on when we're so closed up around it. And I think just helping someone open up a little bit and sit back, be more present, that immediately lifts their perspective and their consciousness and their ability to see what is needed next.
Mm.
That's kind of where I come from, really. I don't think it's about helping someone get it. It's about, because I could say that what I said before with the most eloquently, concise way possible. But if you don't get the insight, if you don't see it yourself, that's not going to create any change in you. So I think information in and of itself is only works so well. It's about helping someone come to their own insights, and that depends on who the person is and what's going on, I think.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point there. I think what people missing, what even we missing here a lot, is having that connecting thread from someone who is somewhat interested in this, probably deals with anxiety, or even around business, even just in their life, or in relationship, and just wants to feel better, because like that's the kind of motivation, right? My life sucks, I suck, I feel bad, I just don't want to, right? So like how one gets from here to there, right? And obviously we can say that you don't get from here to there, and I think this is a paradox, is that at the same time you don't. But when we just talk about the three principles and we talk about this understanding and the truth, now what I see and what I even feel myself is that words only do just that good. Words cannot really, so it's not an information, it's not a course, it's not an exercise, it's an experiential thing. And I think that's what even the three principles community missing a lot, that hey, you can listen Sydney Banks all day long, and probably it will help you because it just points to something, and someday you may see it. But I mean, to me at least, my experience with it, that I had to go through a process which was a combination of life experiences. I was really depressed, and I had guidance from my coach, and I did some meditations. And through that, I saw myself, I experienced, I had the insight, and no one could take that away. I was slipping back and back to the same kind of being caught up in my thoughts. But this is an experiential thing we could talk about all day long. But I think what would be interesting to talk about is how one gets from here to there. I just try to make this simple and easy for everyone to get. How you guys found this, or like instead of talking about like the thing, like probably sharing just your experience, like how.
Well, I think for me, going back to the idea of perfectionism, which I think held me back in so many ways, in so many different fields of my life. When I was acting, when I was making music, when I was starting out as a coach, I felt like I had to be the best on day one, and that in itself kept me really stuck and feeling like I didn't want to put stuff out there because of that. And like I say, what helped was starting to see that I didn't need to be perfect. I didn't need to be anything other than who I am. But I don't know whether there's techniques for that, because we're all different, aren't we? We could, there's things you can say, I did this, and this. But that's my journey, and it's not going to work for anybody else. It may do, but it's not a prescription. It's not a 10 steps to destroying your inner demon. For me, it's knowing that there is no there to get to that helps me get rid of my inner demons, that here is all that matters.
Hey guys, Mihal wanted to say something, if that's okay with you guys. I'm not sure if he knows how to unmute himself.
You unmute yourself, the left bottom corner. There is a mute or unmute and the stop video or start video button. Or I can unmute you if you want to speak.
Unmuted him. I think he's on his phone.
Unmute. Huh? All right. I said oh, good. You are unmuted, Mihal. Okay. Let's try again.
Yeah.
So now, speak now.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you understand me?
Yeah, it's a bit laggy, but we're gonna do our best.
It sounded a bit like a robot, but that's okay.
Okay, so I would like to elaborate on anger. I don't know about, I haven't understood all the inner demons, but I would like to speak something about anger. So, controlling anger, first of all, controlling anger is not the way to deal with it. By controlling or suppressing anger, we become bitter over time because going against anger means going against our instincts. Anger is an animal, it's a purely animalistic thing. Every animal goes through anger. But so when someone sparks anger in us, our animal instinct wants to act on it. But our blood starts rushing through our muscles because it wants us to attack. But the intellect comes in between and stops us because uh, anger has been, we have been taught to not show anger and be a civilized person. So we control, we learn to control our anger and ultimately stop stop expressing it. And the thing about instincts and anger being one of the instincts, uh, going against any instinct will lead to uglier expressions of the same instincts. For example, let's see. Yes, for example, anger. If we control, if we keep controlling anger over time, we become bitter people. We won't express anger at the very moment. Speak bitterly in general, and so the best way to deal with anger, whenever we get angry, expresses it totally, and then uh, all the residues, or I would say all the energies, all the negative energies have been released, and this over the time makes us less bitter and less angry. And you will see that people who keep controlling their anger and never express in the moment, they become very short tempered. They won't respond aggressively, but they will react bitterly. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm not good at English.
It was great. Thank you for elaborating in that. And I think I mean, sometimes to me it's and what I see, sometimes it's just easiest to first say like, I feel anger, so just first acknowledge it. Um, that's a way of expressing, but also knowing that no one and no thing can make you angry. That's part of the illusion that our anger comes from outside, or from someone, or from something, or from a situation. And that's part of the illusion. It feels like they made us angry. I hate this person. I hate this situation. But it really comes from inside. We have thinking about it. We not accepted something. We fighting against something outside. We perceive as outside, but it's really inside. So there is no one to be angry about. Our thinking creates our anger. And I get that the mind doesn't compute first, so it needs time to get it. Matt, I'm sure that you could put some good thoughts here.
I was just thinking about, what are the steps to feeling better after you connect with it, when you see when demons show up? What if there are steps to get somewhere? What are the steps? And I think the first step, like you just said, is to see that you're feeling, you're thinking, that whatever's going on inside of you, whatever emotion is bubbling up, that's the result of your inner experience. It's not a result of the outside world. So that's the first step. And the second step, stop identifying with it. Stop trying to work it all out. The moment you get present, no matter what is going on inside you or outside of you, the moment you get present, it all drops away. You can't, and then this is a Rupert Spira quote, and Michal just said, are you sure that our thinking creates anger? Can you get angry without thinking? Michal, write it in the box if you want. Animals do. Do animals get angry? They have sensory responses to things, and I'm not denying that we do. We have sensory responses to things, but I think anger is an opinion about the world, the way I see anger.
And what could you call what animals do? How would you distinguish what an animal does from anger? Is it more of a rage, or how would you describe it?
It's instinct. It's survival instinct for animals, and we have that in us a little bit. Like Michal said, when anger is created by this, well, okay, we have a fight or flight mechanism inside of us when something in the outside world attacks our state of being. I'm not denying that, and that comes through the senses. That's an instinctive thing. But the feeling of anger, I think, has opinions behind it and has meaning behind it that we put there.
Yeah.
I know we've talked about anger, guys, unless there's anything else to talk about anger, but what other inner demon do you think really holds a man back? One example I can think of perhaps is lust. There's a number, we did an awful lot of talk on anger, but how do you see lust fitting into the list of inner demons, or perhaps sloth, just as other ideas for topics, so we can get a bit more out of this webinar and make it a bit broader, if that's cool with you guys?
What first came up for me when you said that was that lust, the way I see it, perhaps, if it's a negative thing, because lust can be, if it's mutually consensual, quite an exciting emotion. But if it's negative, I see it perhaps as a solution to a deeper issue, to a deeper problem. It's like if we're addicted to pornography or sex, and it's something that we see as something getting in the way of our lives, then it's an addiction, and addictions are all solutions. Addictions are never the problem. They are a way that we find that humans use to deal with an issue. It's so that's the way I see lust.
Yeah, it's basically what we do is run away from things what uncomfortable and run towards things which feels good. So lust is basically a way of running towards that, and the opposite side is always there, because when we run towards the exciting thing, then we also run away from thing which is not exciting. If we run towards swiping Facebook all the time, we're running away from boredom. If we running towards of drinking, we're running away from feeling bad or being anxious. So there are always two sides of the coin. And I think what we're pointing to is, as I see it, is that we are like a multi-layered beings. So I'm not denying that we have an ego side, we have a thinking side, and it's fine. It's also part of our nature. So we have this kind of truth, the three principles understanding that behind our thoughts we are already whole. We have the self-esteem, we have the potential in it already, and then we have the kind of the ego side, and the ego is a compilation of lacks, a perception of lacking different things, and the lack of self-esteem is one expression. Is another expression. Anger is another expression, because what really happens with anger, it's like something happening outside which I don't want to accept, and because of that I want to change it. I want to have control, and I build up energy. That's what anger is. So every emotion has its own kind of mechanisms, but in its basis, it's all an illusion of lack, which is us believing or thinking, right? All right, so there are some good comments there. John?
All right. Yeah. When we're talking about the different subjects, Michal just said loneliness, low self-esteem, ambition, depression, fear, procrastination as other examples of perhaps inner demons. And I was just saying myself, I see boredom as something to an extent which is self-created, yet we can create the conditions where we're not bored. And it seems that when the mind is not in some sort of a thought process, non the act of creation, that's when we really do get truly bored, is what I was saying.
I don't entirely see boredom as a demon. Yeah, I agree. I think boredom is the label we give to a feeling caused by a demon, by loneliness, any of those things, ambition, fear.
Boredom is only a demon if we're not accepting it.
Isn't that the truth of every demon then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why what I was researching is that there are different ways, as we were talking about, everyone is different. There are different ways of opening up to the truth, not to getting to the truth, not to understand, to kind of just open up and see it. One of the way is called the Sedona method, which is the way of letting go.
Mm-hmm.
And when we let go that things should be different than how they are, we open up, and then truth is there. So it's not like a technique for the truth, kind of and kind of not. Mm-hmm. The Buddhists say that suffering created by desire. So it's like kind of seeing the same thing from different angles, or explaining it from different angles.
Yeah.
But it's always like a lack, and the lack comes from we want things to be different than as they are.
Yeah, we want things to be different. We have a feeling, and we don't want it, and it's the not wanting it that causes the discomfort.
Boom.
That's it, isn't it? That's the way I see it. Again, going back to Sid Banks, one of my favorite quotes from him. If only human beings could learn to not be scared of their experiences, that alone would change the world. And I think that's it. We're scared of our experiences. We're scared of feeling certain ways. So we resist it so much that we make it so much more complex than it has to be. And if we just release in any way we can, whatever method we want to use, whether it's just the deepened understanding of how life works, or the Sedona method, or the release method, that Lester, what's his face? I can't remember, Lester something or other. Anyway, look it up. I'll put a link if you want to. But they're all getting us to that same place, which is we are not resisting what's going on inside of us. We're just allowing it to flow through us, because it does flow through us if we let it. You know, we are not the current, we are the ocean. And the bad feelings are just the current that are created by us.
I think if you allow me, I think I just had like a aha moment or something like clarified, is that it's not about us becoming a superhuman. That's what the ego wants. That's what I want often, is like I want to sort out every part of every area of my life. But and that's what self-development is. And we still can do these games. We still can be on this beautiful journey. I love like working out and things like this, diet, whatever, business, you know. But the thing is, it's not about us becoming superhuman. That's what our ego wants. It's us being an ordinary human and realizing that that's a superhuman thing. So because we're living through the ego, we don't really express our full potential. We won't really connected with the bigger mind. We don't really connected to God, if you want to say it like this, or creativity, or intuition. When we are ourselves, we are truly grounded. We can make true human connections. We are creative. We are on purpose. We are so much what we don't see because we have this kind of illusion perception of lacking and trying to improve.
Yeah, boom, right on. I agree.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I think that's
So I would love to check in with Mihail, because I kind of feel like, which is good, that there is like, how would I say, like we probably said things which were quite far reach what you thought about these topics. So I would like to just check in with you, do you have any questions here? Like we were talking about some kind of understanding, and you had your kind of understanding, and I want to see like what kind of changes were there for you? Were there places you liked? Do you hear me?
Yeah, you're unmuted, Michal.
Okay.
Hello.
Good.
No, I do not have any questions.
Okay. Were there any parts what was useful for you?
Yes, one thing I remember that, but one thing is correct, that there is no formula like looking for a 10-step manual for dealing with any inner demon, that if we follow these 10 steps and instantly our demons will leave. It is not the correct way. Some issues that really, loneliness, not a demon, because loneliness is not something that exists on its own. Loneliness is an absence of something. A lot of our issues.
Oh.
Is it better now?
Yeah, your voice is cutting in and out, Michal.
But I did catch something that really landed for me. Yeah, these things are absences of something that we think we want. So we're going back to full circle to what you were saying before, Victor. It's a lack that we think we have in our life, that rather than there's something called a demon inside of us, it's almost like it is something that's missing, that we think is missing, that is causing the pain. You know, again, going back to what I said before, we never notice when we're feeling confident. It's always when we're feeling unconfident that we notice. It's always about the part of the thing we want rather than the thing. And if we stop chasing those things, we don't have the demons anymore.
Yeah, Mihal was just trying to adjust his mic so he could speak more clearly. And I think we cut over him a little bit there because he's trying to get his thing fixed.
Okay, so I was talking about loneliness. I'll give enough darkness. For example, dark, not an entity. It is not something that exists on its own. Darkness is an absence of something. It is the absence of light. So we cannot do something directly on darkness. We cannot deal with darkness. We cannot manipulate darkness. What we can do is to do with light. As we bring in the light, the darkness disappears. We can only deal with something that exists. And for example, loneliness, it is not something that exists. It is the absence of solitude. What we can do is to do something about solitude, not about loneliness. And basically, this holds true for our demons, because they are generally absences of something, not presences of something evil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really good point. Really, really, the number of it, as far as I can see, really, that it is. It's yeah. You don't fight the darkness. You just turn on the light.
Darkness is not a physical quantity. It is not something that really exists. What is darkness? Is it an entity? Is it an energy? No, it is purely an absence of something.
Yeah, and like you say, all these demons are really an absence of something. And whether that is the absence of other people in our lives, which is a true thing. But again, loneliness is a label we've put on that. That's our own personal experience of it. Some people love being on their own. So that's the personal meaning that we've put on our lack of proximity to other people. These are all labels that we've put in on things. But I just want to stay with that, because I think that's it for me. How do you get rid of a demon? Work out what's on the other side of that demon. What is it that you think what is that demon the absence of in your life? And then explore that. Why do you want that? Do you need that as much as you perhaps think you do? And can you let go of wanting that? Because when you let go of wanting that, it goes. That demon goes with it.
Yes.
Nailed it then. Done. There's your plan. Victor, you got anything to? Sorry, go on, Mihal. Sorry.
No, I was just about to give one more example of the same. For example, when we are trying to deal with depression, we always want to do something to depression. We try to do certain exercises, etc. But depression is lack of expression, and I'm not talking about the clinical depression, the general depression that we often go through. Depression is a lack of expression. So we don't express, we don't work on expression. We try to deal with depression, and that's why we never get any successful results. That's one more example that I want.
Awesome.
Okay, yeah, awesome. I really like that you say like depression is a lack of expression. And I think that the expression is kind of, I see that as a result. I see the expression as a result. So you can NLP yourself into expression. You can think yourself, you can just do it, or you can basically become present and see that those, like, there is darkness, and there is no wrong in darkness. I think if I learn something is there is something like there is not darkness, and there is our resistance towards darkness, and more likely this causing the problem than this.
It's the opinions we have about darkness that cause the problems. It's not the darkness.
Because where does depression comes from? And I have a really personal experience of this. It comes from self-judgment. Sometimes we're not aware of it. It's just so subtle, and probably even we get used to it that we're not aware of it. And there is like a long feeling. And depression is something which we've not dealt with for a long time. So depression is like a notification. It's a highlight of, hey, there is something to deal with. Which deal with can mean that you just become aware that actually these judgments are not really relevant. I thought that I'm only good if I have the money. I'm only good if I'm successful.
Yeah.
Towards other, or like others think I'm successful. I'm only good if I have this kind of business or wife or car or whatever, right? Now, because of that, I had a lot of self-judgment. And because of that, I was depressed. Now, when I saw that these judgments are just thoughts, are just labels, right? Just like this, just labels, that I didn't take them as serious. And peace and love was, and inner peace was just there. I didn't create it. I didn't think about the positive. I didn't focus on the positive. It was just there.
Yes.
Right? So you can NLP yourself into the positive, but it will be really effortful. Or you come back to that which you already are. I know this is a deep topic. We're going to talk about more. This is what this group is really about, to have like a deeper understanding that most of the self-development offers out there.
Yeah, and just what John said, it all comes back to we give something a value of some sort, we're creating the variable, and then run it and see how it runs. And it's we're looking, it's the self looking back on itself, as though we're having an experience, but we are part of the experience. So there is nothing to think about in that. Experience happens at that cross section between our thinking and our awareness of that. So we don't need, like you say, but when we can drop out of that and see that none of this exists apart from our moment by moment experience of it. It just looks so real all the time that we get so caught up in it. And again, going back to what I said, if you just open up and get present, take some deep breaths, however you can do to just get back into life and out of your head, things look clearer, things look a lot different than when we're closed up around it and living in our thinking about the things.
I've always had this feeling when I was at in my, I guess you could say, my most calmest and blissful state. I've always sort of felt, oh, my head is full of bullshit. Life is absolutely absurd. It's kind of like the way we just create values and, as we were talking about, and everything happens. Yes, when I do get too caught up in my own thinking, it's kind of like, I know everything is sort of absurd, but yet, why aren't I laughing?
Well, yeah, life is absurd. I think, again, it's going back to, we try and control the uncontrollable, and that always gets us in trouble. And if we can learn not to try and control things and let things be, we will be happier. We will have less demons. It's only when we try and change something that is by its very nature transient, we get ourselves into trouble, because it's not real. It's not that. There is nothing to change. Okay. So, are we done for today?
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed this. I think it's something that can hopefully, you know, if you're watching this in the group, you've got some ideas about this. So please share your thoughts, share your insights, share what's come up for you as you've watched this. Anything you want clarification on, any questions you have, please ask. And I hope you've enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed being here. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for being here. Have a lovely day. See ya.
Peace.